Good morning. Next hand is 9-3 clubs. We will do this hand and then we probably won't have another hand posted until next week sometime. Alright, so we are under the gun. 9-3. We are not going to be calling this. But player after us raises to 2.7. Then there's 3-bet and folds back to him and he calls. So the question is, what is he doing this with? What are the ranges? Checking the notes, we do have that he has a pre-flop raise, 2.8 big blinds with 8-7 off from under the gun. He's playing 27-15. We've got pre-flop raise 17%. Raise first in 17%, 7 out of 42. He is early position. So I was trying to kind of mess around with different ranges and see how things react. And I'm kind of settling in on a range kind of like that. It's about 17.5%. Suited aces, pocket pair, the drop down here has different ways to kind of ranks the hands. I've been using Skalansky Melmoth because it kind of works. It's not perfect. I think there are different ranges, different hands that play better in no limits than what they would recommend. But I think a range something like this. This doesn't include 7-8 offsuit. So where that came from, I don't know. Maybe that's going to be like a bluff. But I don't. I'm not going to just add these offsuit hands because it's going to really increase frequencies. It's going to really increase frequencies, and as we see, we've got over 200 hands on him, so that 17% probably isn't too bad. This player, we've got 72 hands on him. We haven't seen him 3-bet yet, but have we? So it's 0 out of 21. He's 3-bet, but we do have some notes that he has 3-bet 10s and ace king off. So looking at 3-bet stats, I'm looking maybe something like this. This is 6%, even though we don't have anything. So we have to have 10s, we have to have ace king off. So if he has 10s, he's doing it with everything higher. If he has ace king off, he's also doing it with the suited counterpart. I also think if he's going to be doing it with 10s and jacks, he's probably also 3-betting with ace queens. I add in ace jack, king queen, queen jack, and jack 10 as well. He's in position on the cutoff. I should say this is a 10L game, so we're going to go with that 3-bet range. And then the player calls. He does have a fold to 3-bet stat of 20%, so he's folded to 3-bet one time out of the 5 that he was faced. So you kind of go back here and say, okay, he 3-bet. What hands do I think he's going to get rid of? I don't think he's going to get rid of any of the pocket pair hands. I probably don't think he's getting rid of any of the suited aces hands. Maybe he's going to get rid of the offsuit hands like queen jack, king jack. I'm going to get him in. Or maybe he does have some of these offsuit connectors, and those are the ones that he folds to a 3-bet. Alright, so we go to a flop of king 9-5, all diamonds. I would expect him to check and him to bet. This is monotone flop, but you know it's going to be hard for players to connect. So let's see what he does. Villain 4 checks as expected, and then this guy checks. So he's checking 50% when in position, 33% when out of position. I don't think we had any notes, just turn draw aggressively. So at this point, the question is, what should he bet with and what didn't he bet with? So I kind of assumed flush would bet unless he's slow playing the nut flush, which is entirely possible. Because if he has like the ace queen or the ace jack of diamonds, he basically has the board crushed. There's really no reason for him to bet, because the other guy's probably not going to call. So I'm just going to say flush ace queen ace jack is probably a check, and it's probably a check for at least 50% of the time. We'll do 2/3 of the time it's going to be a check. The set he could be scared of. I mean, based on a 50-33 against a looser player, kind of think maybe he is just going to kind of freeze on the trips instead of betting. I do think he should be. I think he should be betting those trips. Um, Same thing with kind of like the overpair hands, unless he's got the nut flush draw. So I'm gonna say the nut flush. He probably would have bet that. Second nut probably would have bet that. Third nut, I don't think so. I think he's gonna have that in his range as well. Um, so the overpairs, some of the time he's gonna have it, some of the time he doesn't have it. Um, it's just, is this a player that's gonna be fearful of the monotone flop, or is he just gonna say, I'm gonna continue betting? Yeah, so we'll do the same thing, 50%. Oops, for the overpair. Same thing with the top pair. Kind of expect him to bet 50% with the top pair. And definitely check 100% with any under pair. That's pretty typical, especially on this board. I don't even have to say 50%. I think if it was a monotone, we would have to scale it and say some of these would be bets and some of those would be checks. All right, so his hand, still some strength. Still some strength to it. All right, 5 of spades. So now all of those trips just hit full houses. Villain bets. He bets a quarter, 25%. I think that could be a bet to try to get a call. So maybe a full house, maybe a flush, and maybe it's entirely a bluff. So let's check the turn. Now, first time he's done it. So I would actually say that he might have an actual decent hand here. I should have said 4-bet. I think we could say aces and kings would have 4-bet. So that way we don't have to worry about the overpair hand here. All right, so could have 3 of a kind still. I think he probably bet small on that. Top pair maybe. I'm gonna get rid of like king jack king 10. Just say ace king and king queen. He's betting a little bit for value. Would he do it with a draw? Probably not on this board. So I'm gonna say that that's kind of his bet, which means he's got a decent. He probably has a decent hand. And then villain calls, so he didn't raise at this point, and I think that works for his first flush. So for a slow play, so I'm gonna keep 100% full house, 100% flush. Kind of think a player would slow play this. Yeah, he wouldn't raise at this point in the hand. So full house flush. Overpair probably calls along. What happened? I think we're missing some hands. Oh no, the ace kings that I was thinking of, like the nut flush. That yeah, I took them out. So ace king should still be there. Yeah, top pair hands. Yeah, but he lacks those. So I think third nut's probably still calling. Tens would tens call? Maybe on this sizing, yes. I think on this sizing he'd probably call. So we'll say 100% there. We get a river of a 7 diamonds. Just man, rough run out. He bets, and he bets on the smallish sides again, and that's either he's trying to sucker him in, or he really does have just he's got the big hand, and or he's still bluffing, and he doesn't want to bluff larger because he's scared. I think that's usually what the bets mean. Do we have enough information to really tell that? Um, not not too much. Um, I do kind of expect um, like quads and the full house to bet larger. Um, so I'm going to exclude those. I kind of expect the nut flush to bet larger. Um, and he got called, so I kind of expect, with the bet of 25, I kind of expect like the nut flush to start going more like half pot, 2/3 pot, just on the slightly larger side. So I'm gonna say the nut flush no, but the second and third nut are definitely in his range. And then possibly top pair unless he's drawing. I actually don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think three of a kind either. We're just gonna keep it as the flush. Um, and I guess we could say full house is kind of like a tricky spot for him. So we'll do that. Villain just calls. So at that point, I think his full house is done. I think he would have raised. I think the nut flush raises here. So we're looking at third and fourth. Maybe he calls with an overpair with eight, with like ace king and top pair. And he could call. So we'll go 84% with him. This is kind of a tough hand. Good thing we review it and take notes. So ace jack and tens. Okay, so we did include tens. We thought maybe that was going to be there, but that was the fourth nut that he called with. The other guy with ace jack. I mean, we had him in his range. We had ace jack in his range, and at some point we eliminated it. So I think we did it at that point, but we thought maybe he wouldn't bet. I guess he could always go for those weak flushes. But we at least, good thing is we had those hands in our starting range. It was just how we expected them to play a post flop. So let's get some notes here on this player. So it was 2.7. Yeah, 2.7, 7.5, and then he called. So he RFI 2.7 big blind, under the gun +1, and call 7.5 big blind. 3-bet, 3B by cutoff with, let's just do that. By cutoff with ace of spades, jack of diamonds. He is out of position. He checked, bet 25%, bet 25%. King of diamonds, 9 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 5 of spades, 7 of diamonds. Okay, so there's the notes. And then this player, he 3-bet UTG +1, 2.7 big blind RFI to 7.5 big blind in cutoff with 10 of hearts, 10 of diamonds in position, checked, all 25%, all 25%. All right. So comments on the hand. I don't mind it. I think this guy kind of missed a c-bet. Instead of checking, it kind of puts him in a tough spot. He doesn't really know, is this hand good or not. I think if he bets the flop, he could then check the turn, take take the showdown, or check the turn, get the free card, and then on the river bet, or call. Um, I think on the turn and river, he's just playing he's just playing his hand as a bluff catcher at that point. Um, and this guy has hands that I think if he c bets, he's just gonna probably fold them. Is this one of those hands? Maybe not. I mean, maybe. It's one of these. If he bets the flop and bets the turn, uh, bets a flop, checks the turn, and then if he checks the river, he could turn his hand into a bluff and bet again, and possibly get the jack of diamonds to fold. I think it's somewhat of a long shot because that's the third nut. You know, ace or queen of diamonds, they're definitely going to call. Jack and 10 are kind of in those questionable ranges. But I think the in position player messed up his hand by missing his c bet. Um, when he misses that c bet, he basically just kind of allows the out of position player to really take control of the hand. So, we're gonna, if we look at all of these hands, and think about how we would play it, I think definitely, we're betting hands. We three bet. So, let's do our breakdown. I think we're including our flushes, nut flush second, third nut flush as part of our bluffing range. Um, I think we've got some value for the flush, for the set, for the overpair, for the top pair. Pocket pair less than the top card's probably going to be part of our bluffing range. And I think we're probably adding like a gut shot to that and possibly weak. I think like overall, since we have such a much stronger range here and we do connect, I think we are going to be c betting quite a bit more. Now we can scale it back instead of having like 84%. We can scale back our c bet frequency, uh, which will mean we'll have to start checking a few times with our flush. So not always betting with the ace queen or ace jack. We'll have some of those as our checking range. We'll probably have some of the sets in our checking range, and that's going to allow us then to have, and we're going to have to check some of like our nut flush and second nut flush draws as well to kind of protect those checks. But I think that's kind of what he should be doing, and especially with that 10 of diamonds, he should be c betting this board, c betting the board, and then on the turn take your take your check behind, and then you just look at what could have happened if the 10 comes on the river. Hey, that's absolutely great. Checks the 10, or the 10 hits, he bets, he raises. Jack's gonna probably call again, um, and that's a good outcome. So I do think this guy missed it. I'm not. I don't mind how this guy played it. He played it. He bet the turn. I think, uh, when he should, and he followed it up with the river bet with some value, because I think you can kind of exclude the queen of diamonds, the ace of diamonds. I do think his turn bet could have been a little bit higher instead of a quarter. I think he could have bet a half pot bet, and then he could have like backed it off to a quarter, uh, maybe, with the idea that if he comes over the top, you're going to probably have to fold your jack of diamonds, which points out that that could be a great um, bluff spot for this player. It's just kind of based on the bet size. I think since he was betting 25%, 25%, I think he was trying to control the pot to make sure he didn't have a big bet to call. All right, so this was kind of I'm going to say this was kind of an interesting one, kind of talking through the hands on a monotone board, in a three bet pot. How do we handle those? So hopefully you enjoy this hand. Remember, I won't have another one up until sometime next week. Hopefully on Wednesday, we'll get back to getting these up. So if you like these hands, look back. I've got a bunch in a bunch of these types of hands posted.